What's up, sons? It's Blind Rod with Son of a Tech once again, and today joining me is Alex Hayes with OrionTaurus.io, a ASIC repair company. We're going to sit down and talk to him about the current bear market, of course, what he's seeing on his end, and just general information on ASIC repair. I know some of you all have been interested in that line of work as well, so maybe we can get some ideas on him from him as far as where you can look for that sort of thing and all of that. So Alex, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Matthew. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. So tell us a little bit about, you are the CEO and founder. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We started a company with my wife 2 years ago in a couple days. Our birthday, company birthday was last week, Wednesday. So we're really excited about passing that 2 year.
Cool. So you've been around for 2 years now. So that would have been 2020.
Yep.
What was that? October 2020?
October 2020, we decided to get into Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining during COVID and looking for a transition. I used to be a merchant mariner, went to sea for 12 years, retired with a captain's license, and we decided to look for other ways of trying to make a living for our family, and we found Bitcoin. So, but we started before the major bull run, and we kind of got building during the bull run, which had its positives and negatives at the same time, meaning equipment got really expensive really fast, and then but it also was really profitable really fast. So it was an interesting education experience.
Nice. So you started out with just mining, is that right? Just building out mines, and how much hardware do you have? Actually, kind of curious, before you really got into the bull run, how much were you able to accumulate between, like, what would have that been, like October to January, maybe January, February, something like that?
Well, to be honest, the first thing we started with was actually an Ethereum 2.0 node, and then from there we actually mined Ethereum first, and we more or less dabbled with Bitcoin with only a few machines here or there. But our main focus was Ethereum, and that proved to be very successful. And everything was done, with a small. Everybody calls it the proof of concept closet, right? You got to have your little shed. Most people, when they start off they start off in their house or their home or their garage, and we were no different in that path. And we started and we built out a couple hundred amps of service and grew from there. But it's but yeah, when we were mostly focused on Ethereum mining because it was back then the most profitable, and the ASICs for Ethereum were the A10s, the 750 mega hash units were on the market, and they were hot, and man, it just felt like we were on top of the world back then.
Yeah. Do you still have some A10s?
No, no, no,
No?
no. I the Ethereum battle kind of soured my taste for it as far as proof of work, proof of stake. When was the merge going to happen? And I mean, I had my fill of, she loves me not for a few
Yeah.
months, all of 2021, and by the end of 2021, we were out of ETH
Okay.
for mining. So.
That's probably good, because if you were getting out of the A10 hardware, you were able to kind of sell it at the top of the market or relatively close to the top of the market, I assume. So sounds like a pretty good plan as far as that's concerned. And then you started moving into Bitcoin ASICs at that point?
Yeah, we focused more heavily on the Bitcoin ASICs, and then we also dabbled with Nervos CKB machines as well.
Okay.
So we kind of sampled the market, but the main investment was always in Bitcoin after the Ethereum switch.
Okay. So you started out with like 200 amps of service, like in a garage or whatever that may be, closet, whatever, right? And then you upgraded to a facility after that?
Well, we used our co-location partners,
Okay.
so we never built out our own facility. It was we had made good connections in the infrastructure business, and we had good people that we met and we trusted, and we allowed them to help us scale. So
Awesome. Cool. Do you want to mention any of those partners or save that for another
Yeah,
time? Okay, cool. Which
yeah, we can.
partners?
Print Crypto has been a great partner. Steven over there has he's a fantastic guy. He's a good friend. He's the one that helped me get started with acquiring my first few ASICs, and there's very few people that I would say I trust in the crypto space, but he definitely makes that short list, and so I'm very appreciative for his action and for his friendship. That was the big one, and through him we were introduced to another gentleman that had started his own ASIC farm, and but it's all kind of in the Print Crypto family.
Okay, cool. And they do like the co-location for you? Is Print Crypto, or is there other partners inside of that, outside of that?
Yeah, there's another partner that I have. His name is Peter, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure as far as the entity or how he wants to be presented. So I'll keep him. I'll kind of respect his privacy, but
Cool. So you moved into basically co-location where you sort of have somebody host your equipment for you, right? And then you manage that, or they manage the equipment for you, or do you manage the equipment still? How does that work?
so it's a little bit of both. We use Foreman for our miner management interface, and that's been great. We've been very happy with them, and from that, we're able to look at all of our machines remotely,
Mm-hmm.
and keep track of how well everything's performing. So that's been good as well.
Is there for Foreman that's going to include a custom firmware, correct?
No,
No.
there's no
Okay.
custom firmware for Foreman. No,
Okay.
that's yeah, it's not an overclocking firmware. It's just a, miner management interface. So you just upload the miners. You kind of log them into Foreman, and you're able to remote start and stop the miners, and then
Okay.
keep track of their performance.
Got you. Okay, cool. Thanks. That makes more sense then. I thought Foreman did something similar to like a Hive OS where you ended up doing the firmware and then the firmware added into a control panel, and there was overclocking options from there too, but on Hive, for example. But I need to do some more research on the competitors definitely within the ASIC space because that's something I'm not super familiar with. So awesome. And so then you build up, you move more into Bitcoin. I did want to ask a question. People have been asking me what my thoughts are on CKB. I have no thoughts on Nervos or CKB personally. It's kind of like it's that one and Cadena that people are like, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know. ASICs, it's the only coin you can mine with that ASICs. It seems kind of sketchy. If that coin fails, the ASIC is a brick, right? To me, like so if
Pretty much.
you're dependent on one network for one ASIC, it seems a lot sketchier than if you're on like SHA-256 that obviously has the big daddy Bitcoin sitting behind it, plus a few others, or even Script where you got hundreds of different coins, pretty widely used algorithm for everything from Litecoin to Dogecoin, right? So what are your thoughts on CKB and then mining it? What was your experience like?
Uh, I I mean, obviously where everybody's disappointed in the price action.
Yeah.
And when we decided to jump into Nervos mining, we had a good amount of hash power on it early on because it wasn't that big of a network when I started jumping into it. Uh, and it was very profitable for a while, but it had the project behind it had a good narrative, a decent use case, and that's what we look for. We like to look. When we were doing our investigation stuff, it was all about finding tokens with utility, and the Nervos platform. They did a great job at their marketing and at their use case white paper, and it sounded like a cool project, and we had high hopes for it. But at this point, I'm not sure if they can turn that around, or if it's done. I don't know. I mean, we still have our ASICs ASICs, but obviously with the current price of power and the current price of CKB, we're not mining with them; they're turned off. So that's mining economics for you
Yeah.
there.
Well, that's kind of par for the course on everything, though. I mean, Bitcoin's sort of included in that right now, right? Like, if I look at, 10 cents a kilowatt hour, now granted, I would assume with your partners you get better price than that. But that's kind of the standard for looking at home miners average across, if you're at 10 cents a kilowatt hour in the past for GPU miners, that's kind of what a lot of people base it off of. When I've been looking at that for Bitcoin mining across the board, there doesn't seem to be a single Bitcoin ASIC that is profitable at 10 cents a kilowatt hour right now. And you have to drop down pretty far before it becomes profitable. So, as far as your Bitcoin ASICs, are you shut off as well, or are you still running those?
No, well, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with the current price action. We had to shut down because we're just like anything else. When you run a business, you can't run deficits, definitely not for very long. So I mean, we tried to hang in there as long as we could, but we had to make that hard choice, and we had to shut it down. Because unlike other guys that get into this space, Bitcoin and the infrastructure ASICs, like this crypto universe is our only source of income. So we decided when we got going that I wanted to be totally immersed in this industry, and so I foregone trying to get another job. I didn't do it. So we and that was on purpose because I wanted to completely educate myself in the space and become as quick as I could somebody that was knowledgeable in this new industry. So, but with that comes you got to make some hard choices.
So what are you supplementing that with? Are you supplementing that with ASIC repair? What are some other ideas that you're working on? I know you said you had an ETH 2.0 node. Is that still running?
Yeah, the ETH 2.0 node is still chugging away. I mean, it's yet to be determined whether or not that one's going to be a successful bet. But no, we made the strategic shift. After we had a good success mining, we saw that I started looking into the future and saw, well, maybe that everybody else did have another source of income. It's like, well, what would be our secondary source of income, or what would be a good way to build? What would be a good concept to build a business around? Because mining economics is very capital intensive, and as the bull run kept going, it just became insane. With $15,000 for an S19 Pro, all of a sudden now it didn't seem as easy to jump into it. So we thought, what would be a good use case scenario that we can build a real business around, and that's where we landed on the ASIC repair. Because again, I think like a lot of people I've heard comment, that there was very little supporting cast for this industry, and we thought, I think we can fill this void. I think we can be part of this supporting infrastructure, supporting cast that can help bring a more professional face to our industry, rather than just be the Wild West.
Yeah, and so with ASIC repair, that's an interesting one to get into. I think when I was down there, I definitely sat down with Austin Childress. He kind of went over the process on like an S17 just for fun, kind of got the idea. What kind of have you gone to any classes that you may recommend, or any certification processes that you would point people towards if they're interested in becoming a technician? And then how many do you think it's better for, in your case, to hire out technicians? Do you do some of the work yourself? Do you have any insight on that? I have a lot of questions, I suppose. So we'll start. We'll start with the first one. Where would you point people towards to learn about ASIC repair if they wanted to learn it for themselves?
So that's a very good question, because I think you have to start with fundamentally what it is, and it's it it is simply just a printed circuit board. So the best place to start that's not going to break the bank is actually on Amazon, believe it or not, with looking at books, right? There's all kinds of literature already out there for printed circuit board repairs and rework. Start looking into stuff like that, and maybe get your hands on a IPC manual for 7711-21, where that gives you official international standards for printed circuit board repairs, and start seeing if this is something that, hey, like maybe this is something I have aptitude for. And then really there's kits that you can buy as well from IPC that you can practice on. And I'm sure that if you looked on uh, YouTube, you can get all kinds of little tricks and guidance as far as what it is. And you can buy a hot air gun and a soldering iron for a few $100 again on Amazon. They're not very expensive, but and if that's truly where you want to go, I would start by reading and researching and figuring out, you know, what this actually is, and before spending a few $1,000s on training. Because if you want to get trained professionally, it's going to cost you a few grand. So it's a big difference.
Right.
So minimize the expenditures by taking a 20 to $40 and buying a few books, and then watching a few things on YouTube to see maybe this is something that you feel like you can do, or you don't really have any real interest in. But the more I've gotten into this game, the more I've really sunk my teeth into it, and I've really enjoyed it. And you asked if I personally do repairs. The answer is yes. On some of the repairs, I do some of the repairs myself, and but it's an enjoyable feeling when you can fix something that was broken, or you find
Hmm.
the problem. You're right. That's incredibly satisfying when you identify correctly a problem, you fix it, and then you turn it back on and it hashes. I mean, it's just a great feeling.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool. So, do you find any benefit to this, like any of the training programs? Do you think self-taught's probably a majority of the industry right now, right? Do you think there's some benefit to the training programs? Are there certifications that are maybe beneficial? I know, like Bitmain has I believe, a certification process that you can go through them, or a training program. Does that at least pretty much help you just get a foot in the door? Is that pretty much what those are for?
So I I have sent people to go get trained by Bitmain, do the actual in-person Bitmain certification class. I've done that. And the feedback is okay. I mean, but you have to think of it practically. They're trying to fit a whole lot of different knowledge base on you at in a very short time, and there's only so much that you can absorb. So unless you already know how to solder and know how to use the equipment, the basic equipment that we've talked about, it's a little bit more difficult to pick up all of the nuance that they're trying to teach you. So they want to teach you basically very simple things as far as how to change an ASIC, right? That's that's a lot of what the whole class is about, is taking the ASIC on and off the board. And that's great, but it's not gonna, you're not gonna take a 1 week course in something and then all of a sudden you're an industry professional.
Right.
That's just not how, you know, the, there's it takes a while to build up a skill set, and you never, just like doctors and lawyers, right? They're called practice. You practice being a doctor and you practice being a lawyer because they're always perfecting their craft. And in technical crafts and skills like this, it's the same. You're always building your experience level, and you're always practicing your craft, and you're always getting better. But you can't expect yourself to become uh, you know an industry expert after a week class at Bitmain. I just don't think that's reasonable. I don't
Right.
think that's a reasonable expectation.
No, that
And
makes
there's
sense for sure.
and there are other schools out there that will give you hands-on schooling or teaching on with PCB repair and rework. You can look them up on the IPC website. I found one that I particularly enjoy working with, and they've been a great help for me. Um, and in building my base and my skill set. And I'm very happy that I've found somebody that can help guide myself along, right? Because that's important.
Yeah.
If you want to learn something new, you go find yourself a coach or a teacher or an educator, and you take time. It's time, money, and practice.
And
That's
is
what it
that
all
one
takes.
that's available to the public, or is it pretty limited?
Well, they're extremely busy,
Yeah.
but and I'm not. I'm very excited because we have some discussions in the works that I can't give away too much just yet because a lot of things we're still talking about. But we're very excited about what the future is going to bring as far as going in and supplying an educational gap in our industry. And that's we list at the conference, at the mining conference a couple weeks ago, and then other conversations I've had in the last few months. A lot of bigger players are all asking for education, and I'm very excited to be moving in that direction with a very well experienced and seasoned veteran of the PCB world. So um, big announcements hopefully to come soon.
Well, let me know about those later on down the line. So, with the bear market kind of in full force at this point, and obviously with the machines turned down and you focusing on ASIC repair, how is the ASIC repair business right now? I'm assuming you're pretty new into it. Do you find, and have you had experience with it in a bull market? Do you think that, and then my curiosity is kind of like, do a lot of people shut down and start getting ASICs repaired during the bear market? Is that something you're noticing? Obviously, we're aware of the shortage of technicians, but how is business during the bear market for repair?
I mean, business is still steady. I think it's the difference of the type of client now that's coming in more often
Okay.
is more the medium to larger institutional guys are still looking for repair. Uh, a lot of the smaller retail clients are understandably starting to watch how much they're spending on stuff that's not really giving them any return. So I think it's another reasonable shift, but if now would be the best time to excuse me, to invest in. If you're going to shut down, don't just shut it down and leave it dirty. By leaving the PCB dirty, you're going to open yourselves to all kinds of problems when you want to start up again. It's just like the S9s, right? The S9s, people shut down almost all the S9s during the bear market when they weren't profitable, and all of a sudden turned on again, during the last bull cycle. I think the S19 will probably end up being something like the S9 during the next bull cycle, right? So having your machine in a stored condition that's actually cleaned and ready to go with fresh thermal compound, and all the foreign object debris is off the board, and it's just, it's nicely packaged in EST shield, then you're ready to go when the time's going to come to plug it back in. You just don't know. So you got to be
Right.
ready.
Yeah, that makes a lot
But
of sense. So during the bear market, like, I mean, personally, I'm a GPU miner, but I've been taking down all the GPUs, running them through the ultrasonic cleaner, repadding, repasting, replacing dead fans. I've moved primarily to server cases, so pretty much going away with the fans all the way. But regardless, cleaning everything up, making sure everything's ready to go when we power back on. So that leads me to the next question: when do you think we'll be able to power back on?
I think that's everybody's guess, and everybody's got their own opinion as to which date. Uh, I've I'll s- I'll say this: early when I first jumped into Bitcoin, I thought I was the cat's meow and that I couldn't be wrong with any kind of guessing or future projections of where we were going to be. Very rarely was I correct, and I've been humbled too many times to give speculation. But I, I think it's going to be, for sure, it's going to be when nobody's expecting it, and I think because that's it's always the way it goes. Nobody, very few people can time the tops and the bottoms. So I think just kind of being ready and watching for when it does happen is obviously your best bet.
So then I have a question following that up as well. So right now, I would say, hardware is probably getting close to reasonable, if but may come down here maybe in the next couple months. But are you accumulating hardware in preparation, or are you just holding on to the hardware that you currently have and not powering it on?
So I myself am doubling down on the ASIC repair, uh, because I found that I really enjoy doing the work, and I really want to figure out, continue to bring more value to our industry as a whole. And I think that I can do more, or bring more value to more people by being part of a supporting cast role, and becoming somebody that people can trust, a name that people can trust in this industry. And that's what I'm really focusing on right now.
And do you think that that's an easier industry from a planning out perspective? Because obviously, there's been a couple. One of the ones that's really interesting to me is like hosting, right? And it seems a little not fully similar to hosting, but kind of similar to hosting from the fact of the matter that it steadies out your income over a period of time, maybe a little bit, just compared to actually mining and then shutting off and then mining and then shutting off. To whereas like if you're just purely mining, it feels like you got to like try to time the market almost a little bit more than you would really want to, as opposed to if you have kind of a steady business. You said like having a secondary business to back that up. That was kind of the goal. Do you see the similarities to hosting there? Do you think it's more consistent than like hosting would be with hosting contracts, or less consistent?
Hosting is, and to me, I think hosters are probably in a very precarious situation because uh, they're, if all their clients are, let's call them retail clients, the retail guys are getting squeezed harder with inflation and with economic downturn than anybody else. So they're feeling it more than anybody. And if they lose their paying customers, just paying clients, then they're going to be in a bad spot too, because I'm sure that a lot of them have secured PPAs and they're under obligation to make payments. So I think that it all depends on how well they did at negotiating. I mean, just look at what happened to Compass. I mean, we that's a great example of how, it doesn't matter how big you are, if you're not careful in your contract negotiation, you can get burned. So I think that it's gonna be on a case by case basis, but just like the market always does, it rewards those that have done well, and those that were less careful in preparation, kind of, or just circumstances, end up getting moved out of the marketplace. So I think that hosting is a much harder game to be in, with especially with power rates and power negotiations. And now uh, during the bull market, I mean, everybody was trying to buy power, so it's I think that's a harder game. Whereas with printed circuit board repair rework is actually its own industry already. It's already got all kinds of demand, whether it's with appliances, or there's your cell phone repair. I mean, yeah, it's not like you're going to make a crazy amount of money doing it, right? Because the value of the lesser electronic machines, that's not something that's going to really be like a Bitcoin swing, where all of a sudden you had one Bitcoin and then you just made 40 grand, just because you bought and held. That's not, you're not going to get the same highs and lows. But it's you can think of it probably as peanut butter and jelly, where you can survive and you can eat and you're going to be okay. And that's but but the goal for me is not just to be okay, it's to provide real value for an industry, because this industry just demanded that all of these PCBs that have been out there with the hash boards, they need help, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge explosion of computer electronics globally, but very very much concentrated here in North America. And there's not, like we said, there's not enough missions, there's not enough companies, there's not enough experts, there's not enough there's just not enough of everything to support it. So that's where I think I can bring more value to our industry.
That makes sense. So you did bring up that word, that inflation word. The we may dance around it a tad, but obviously it looks like we're getting pretty close to a recession. We have this inflation kind of topic going around, and of course that is where the discussion surrounding Bitcoin and fundamentals and this idea that Bitcoin would be a hedge against inflation. If you look at the markets today, do you think that Bitcoin is holding out to actually be this hedge against inflation as we get, move further and further into it? Or do you carry some doubts kind of moving into this recession?
I don't know if I'd call them doubts. I would say it's observation. And I think that Bitcoin is still very, very new, as whether you want to call it an asset class or an investment or however you want to, digital gold. But I think that it's still very, very new, and it's not had an opportunity to go up against a deflationary environment or one where monetary policy was tightening.
Mm-hmm.
It's only seen in its lifetime monetary loosening and of quantitative easing and printing, money printing, and just a very different a very different economic backdrop. So what we're witnessing is something I think that is going to be probably different because it's not the same controls, right? It's not the same controls. Now, it it's to watch out for sure, because of how is it going to play out on a world stage? Is the going to adopt it as a monetary standard that's outside the control of federal policy? These are all good questions, and I think that you know I think just watching and waiting and having some exposure to it is a good idea. If you would ask me, am I going to bet my entire house on it? Probably not. But but I think that I don't fault people that do. But I think too, there's a whole education you mentioned earlier other aspects of Bitcoin, either Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin SV. I think that there's other technology that's behind Bitcoin that I feel is going to be very, very expensive when people really figure out the full range of capability that Bitcoin has. And that's what I'm really excited about is seeing technology improve the conditions of mankind. That's a cool thing. And that's what I'm really bullish about.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think like we've seen a few things like examples of crypto in general, not necessarily Bitcoin, but for example, Argentina and them utilizing the stable coin when their currency went inflationary and they needed a way to, at the lower income levels to protect the work, right? I mean, that's really what we're protecting. You're not protecting a currency or your value as much as you're protecting how much your work was worth that you put in. I always think, right? So,
Yeah.
you get paid to do something, and then if they inflate your currency, you just got paid less to do it. So the entire goal is to protect, your time at the end of the day, right? Um, and I think, like you said, it's really exciting to see how it's affecting everything. Some of the crazier stuff is like, Russia proxy mining Bitcoin through Kazakhstan or whatever it may be, right? Trying to get around sanctions. But other than that, that's a whole other thing to bring up that we could say for a later time. But I'm excited to see where we head into this. Tell everybody where they can find you, and we'll leave it down in the description below. What do you have a Twitter? Is there a main website you'd like people to follow you out? What are we looking at?
I'm fairly active on LinkedIn on Orion and Taurus LLC, and my personal LinkedIn profile, Alex Hayes, and but also we have Twitter, and I do have Facebook, but we're not as active on Facebook as we are Twitter and LinkedIn. But our website is a great place, great resource, oriontaurus.io, and info@orionandtaurus.io is the best email to come in and ask questions and see how we can help, because that's what we want to do. We want to reach out and help people.
Cool. Thanks, Alex, for coming on. And I hope to have you on again. Let us know when you get any more information on some of those bigger ideas you had floating around surrounding education. Maybe we can have you back on for that. Everybody else, thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bells down below, and I'll see you next Tuesday. For additional content that also goes into more opinionated pieces surrounding the politics around crypto, make sure you check out sonofatech.locals.com. There you can become a member for free or even choose to support for basically additional content at $5 a month. It's helping me stay alive through the crypto winter.